impacting human and economic development. Looking around the table, I understand that this is a subject very close to the hearts and minds and your working day back in the office. And I'm particularly delighted to welcome you here because I know that many of you are key decision makers when it comes to being able to enable women to be successful in export, in tourism value chains. In considering who to invite as moderator for this particular session, we thought about those who have been champions of women's rights in the countries where we operate, and I reflected on those who have supported the work of the Women in Trade Program, ITC's Women in Trade Program, since its inception some 2.5 years ago. Right from the very beginning, His Excellency Pan Sarasak, the Secretary of State for the Royal Government of Cambodia, in the Ministry of Commerce, has been to each of the key major meetings ITC has organised on this topic since the Women in Trade Program began. Pan Sarasak was at our expert roundtable on the gender dimension of the enhanced integrated framework, and more recently he joined us in Geneva at the end of last year when we looked at the gender dimension of aid for trade. This support at the highest level is very important for our work, both to ensure that donors, when we look at aid for trade, donors retain a focus on how useful and what an impact it can have to have donor funding focused on the economic empowerment of women in trade, but also to have people like Pan Sarasak in the government, in decision-making roles, who can change the business environment in favour of supporting women entrepreneurs to export successfully as well. So without any further ado, it is my very great pleasure to turn the floor to our moderator for today's session, His Excellency Pan Sarasak. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Meg, for very nice introductions. I know Meg since the old days before you joined the ITC. It's my privilege to be here and to moderate these sessions. But before I start, I would like to mention a little bit that my role as moderator is not so much to speak, but to listen to all of you and elicit some comments and questions and view from the audience. The session has two parts. I can mention that the first is business case for sourcing from women's vendors. Second is the development case for sourcing from women's vendors. The importance of identifying gender issue in value chain. Last, and the fourth one is new approaches to moving from strategy to action. We have a break after the first two. We have a break and we have discussions. But before that, we have a break. We have discussions on the first two topics. Before turning over the microphone to our first two contributions, let me give a spiel about Cambodia a little bit. So I have my colleagues here looking at me. So Cambodia has long recognized that tourism is critical export sector because it is labor intensive, because it has great potential to reach far and deep into many regions of the country, and because it is a large employer for women. Foreign visitors to Cambodia have more than doubled between 2004 and 2009, from 1.055 million to now about 2.5 million. Revenue have nearly tripled during the same periods, from 578 million to 1.561 billion. So the sector is a huge foreign income earners for us. Tourism is complex sectors with many different sub-sectors, and therefore many opportunities for employment and business creation. While the Cambodian tourism sector has benefited from key aid for trade, for instance, in the development of our airport infrastructures or in the restorations of Angkor Wat sites, its development has been mostly private sector driven. There's one more area where government has tried to be more deliberate in promoting one of the tourism sectors, namely in rebuilding the country's steel industry, because it can be a key provider of handicraft purchased by foreign visitors. Moreover, the sector is dominated by women and reached out in many poorer regions of the countries, so as it has a strong impact on women and poverty. For instance, the sericulture, we estimate that 1 hectare of mulberry tree can result in 2,000 annual income per farmer, compared to rice paddy production, which will yield only 500 to 600 US dollars per hectare. Cambodia's steel value chain was destroyed by the year of conflicts in Cambodia. It took assistance from the French government starting back in the late 1990s, followed by more recent assistance from New Zealand Aid, SECO, and UNDP to rebuild the sector. In the most recent phase, we have been receiving technical support from ITC, in which ITC has helped us shape our steel sector-wide approach that focuses on all 3 sectors: the value chain, the production, yarn, weaving, and product and market development. Today, the sector has roughly 50 million gross output per year. There are also 20,000 weavers, mostly women. And the other large subsector, product and market development, is also dominated by women. Let me introduce the first speaker, Ms. Elizabeth Vasquez. You are right here, and she's the CEO and co-founder of WeConnect International USA. I'd like to pose the questions. What is the business case for supplier diversity? And how can the global platform for actions on sourcing from women vendors benefiting women in the tourism value chain? So I let the microphones to you. Thank you.
Thank you for the very important question, and thank you to the ITC and to everyone in this room for the opportunity to have this conversation about the role as women, not as women looking for microfinance alone, but women who want to sell their stuff. They have products and services they're wanting to put out into the world, and they need access to markets. They're ready to compete. And so years ago, some corporations came together, very large multinational corporations came together to say, we have special programs to buy from women-owned businesses in the United States with specific goals to source from women because they know that they're missing in their value chains. So they've been doing this for about 12 years, and they realized that as multinational corporations, by definition, they are sourcing from all over the world. But women represent less than 1% of the vendors to these corporations. And frankly, they probably represent less than 1% to their own governments. And they probably represent something along those lines to the multinational organizations, multilateral organizations, and the NGOs, who, as a collective source of purchasing power, haven't been asking the question, are women selling to us? Are we making an effort to go and source from women-owned businesses and the amazing products and services they're offering? So we all, as individuals and as representatives of organizations, have an opportunity to be very thoughtful in our sourcing practices and our policies. So in 2009, these corporations, I'm talking about the Walmarts and the IBMs and the Boeings and the Ernst & Youngs and the Goldman Sachses and Alcatel-Lucents of the world, the Cummins of the world, the really big buyers in the world. They came together and they said, we want to create an organization whose entire mission is to find women-owned businesses so that we can buy from them. We're talking about $700 billion in annual purchasing power. This is very, very significant that this organized source of purchasing power is wanting to make special efforts to find the women of the world and understand the products and services they're offering because they want to be competitive. They're not doing this for charity. It may have some CSR benefits, but the reality is these corporations now are finally understanding that women represent over 70% of the purchasing decisions at the household level. So if women are making the buying decisions, but they're not involved in developing the products and services and delivering those products and services, these corporations aren't going to be as profitable, and they're not going to be as relevant as they should be now or in the future. So the question is, how quickly can we organize as a global community to connect this supply with this demand? And if these corporations see this as a business opportunity to be more relevant, to be more competitive, to have more choice in the vendors they source from, and if women are ready and willing to develop their capacity to be world-class vendors of products and services because they have sources of innovation, they see things that traditional businesses don't see. They see niches in the markets, opportunities to create and offer value. This is a huge opportunity to leverage and connect supply with demand. So one of our corporations, for example, Marriott, we heard from them earlier today. They're a big supporter of the ITC for obvious reasons. This is an opportunity as a member of We Connect for Marriott to work through us, to work with the women business organizations, the trade support institutions, organizations like the World Bank and some of the cutting edge Amanda Ellis did with developing the gender program, specifically on getting women to sell, women as vendors, not just women as entrepreneurs or women who need healthcare services and family care services. All of those things are very, very important. But it's a $57 trillion global economy. And women are invisible. They don't own the means of production. They don't own the wealth. And the only way that's going to happen is if we get them to be ready to compete for very large contract opportunities somewhere in the global value chain. It might start as a 10th tier supplier, or they might over time then learn how to get larger and larger contracts. And then we will see real job creation and economic impact. And so when Marriott says that they have a program they're developing to find women in the tourism sector, they are looking for women who are selling handicrafts to put into the shops and to feature art in their hotels. But let me be clear, they're looking for women to build their buildings, their new hotels. They're looking for women to service those hotels after they're built. They're looking for women business owners to cater and to clean and to help to market and promote. So we have to think much bigger about all the value add that women can offer, not just in terms of products and handicrafts, but the many real and important additional value add within the entire spectrum of what is involved in travel and tourism and far beyond travel and tourism. And I think this is a really exciting opportunity that We Connect has had, these corporations have had, to partner with the ITC to promote the platform for action on sourcing from women-owned businesses. This is a commitment that our corporations have made to find women-owned businesses and start to develop their capacity and integrate them into their value chains. And I think we don't want to miss this window. So the faster we can find the women-owned businesses by working with all the trade support organizations and get them verified, because they want to know that these are women-owned businesses. So we certify them that this is at least 51% owned, managed, and controlled, so that when the CEO of Walmart stands up and says, I buy from women-owned businesses, or the CEO from Marriott stands up and says, I buy from women-owned businesses, that that is true and accurate, that that money and that effort that they're making is going to go to the women, because we know that the way women reinvest in their families and in their communities is significantly more socially supportive than the traditional way of businesses taking revenue and investing those profits. So I just want to thank all of you for this opportunity to have this conversation. I think a lot of it is just simply about asking the questions. I don't think governments are discriminating, or corporations are discriminating, or multilaterals are discriminating. I think they just simply haven't thought to ask the question, are we buying from women? Are we using our funding, whether it be private sector or public sector, to make sure that women are included, because it benefits all of us, when women are developing their businesses, employing more people, and supporting the economy in the communities in which they work. So this is a really important conversation, and I commend the ITC for having hosted this, and to the very esteemed colleagues who are speaking on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vasquez. I think it's very thought-provoking, and also we go beyond assisting women in needs. Here we looking at the opinions that how to empower women in making business work for women, and you're looking at the women as supplier rather than just as buyers. And this is very important for us, and how to put it together. And I will leave question and answer later on after the next speaker finished her speech. Let me introduce Ms. Luisa Sifakula. And Ms. Luisa Sifakula is the Senior Trade Manager from the Pacific Islands Trade and Investment Office of New Zealand. So Ms. Sifakula, you have the microphone. Thank you.